So hi everybody and welcome to the webinar called Helping People Move More, the Power of Walking, which has been arranged for members of the South Yorkshire Women Inspired Network linked to National Walking Month, which is our health and wellbeing campaign for May. My name is Caroline Brennigan, Head of Health and Wellbeing on the Network Committee, and Liz Leggett, Deputy Head of Health and Wellbeing, is also supporting the session today. So just to start with a quick background about the network. So the South Yorkshire Women Inspired Network exists to inspire, empower and elevate women from all backgrounds to reach their full potential. Our network offers a dedicated space where women can connect, lead and thrive, supported by mentorship, shared learning and leadership development tailored to their lived experiences. We offer regular webinars, inspirational talks and events, as well as career mentoring and other offers. We'll put a link in the chat for our link tree, which contains our main links, including our website, a form to join the network if you're not a member already, and also our social media pages, where we post regularly about our campaigns. So that's where you can follow along with our National Walking Month campaign and future ones. So the session is being recorded, and both the recording and the slides will be added to the Women's Network website, and the link is included in the link tree, as I mentioned. If I can ask you all to remain on mute during the session, but if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat throughout, and there should be some time for questions at the end. So I'd now like to introduce Rachel. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's session. My name is Rachael Weston. I am a development manager at Yorkshire Sport Foundation. For those of you who've never heard of Yorkshire Sport Foundation or aren't familiar with what it is that we do, we are one of the active partnerships in the country. So there's 42 of us across England that work across certain districts and places to connect, support and influence around sport and physical activity. So my role is primarily focused in Sheffield, but I do work across wider in South Yorkshire as well. And really it's about connecting people to different opportunities, the people who may be the most inactive, to support them in finding ways to have movement as part of their everyday lives. And as part of that work, we work with people from communities, people who are delivering sport and physical activity, and then also people across organisations, everything from health to education, people working in parks and countrysides to think about how we can better create those environments to make movement and daily activity part of the norm and easy and accessible for people. So today I've been asked to come and talk to you all about the benefits of walking and also just wider benefits of movement and physical activity within the lives of women in particular. So I will start off, and I think the focus as well is really thinking about how this connects into the work that's been promoted through the network around National Walking Month, and hopefully you've all been part of some of those activities already. So just want to start off, I will be having various opportunities for discussion in the chat. Really would like it if people could engage and make this hour as meaningful as possible for yourselves. But I just want people to think about what is the first thing that comes into your mind when you think about walking. So if you could just post in the chat initial thinking when we say that. Lots of people relating it to being outdoors. I'm interested, Julie, in your comment that just says no. Would love to hear more about that. Steps in fresh air, exercise and dog walks, yes. A lot of people, it's a kind of a main interest in having a dog is to encourage people to get out and walk. I suppose you don't really have the option, do you, when you've got a dog scratching at the door wanting to get out? Peace and decompress. Yeah, a break from sitting at my desk all day, which a lot of us tend to do. Thank you, everyone. That's really helpful. And what we're going to do is have opportunity at the end for questions to come in as well. And it'll be interesting to know how people feel about walking at the end of this session, if it's changed the way that you feel at all. So we know that walking is important, and it's something that we have kind of deconditioned out of our lives a lot. It's very easy these days to just jump into a car or on public transport and go door to door, and we're cutting out those small opportunities for movement, and particularly walking. And for why it matters for women, and for everybody really, it's accessible, it's free and flexible. You can do it in any part of your day, and it's very much low pressure, so you can wear what you want. You can show up how you want. You don't have to feel any sense of judgment. And it can be social if it's something that's quite easy to do with somebody else. And it's easy to fit into busy lives. And we'll go on to talk a little bit more about that. But we know for women in particular, lives are busy, and there's other responsibilities that a woman might have in her life, like caring responsibilities. And it just, even with children involved, like on the image, it may be that getting them to school and then having to show up for work yourself as well, and that just cuts out the time and those natural opportunities where movement could be really easy. And I think another important thing to say about walking is it's something that can be overlooked as being a physical activity opportunity. I think people think it's just something we do, and it's not formal exercise. However, it definitely is. And brisk walking, where we're getting our heart rate up, is the best form of exercise you could be doing for lots of different reasons. So it definitely should be given more attention, I suppose, and more value than what it sometimes gets. So if walking is something that feels doable in your life, then definitely do more of it, and that alone will have big impacts on your well-being, your energy, how you're feeling, and just creating. I think some people said in the comments, just decompressing and creating that time for yourself and getting outdoors in the process. So how it can support women's health, and there's loads of different ways it can support women's health. So things like improving your mood and your confidence, getting outdoors and being connected to nature. It can therefore improve sleep. The exercise element of it, but also the fresh air, massively helpful for sleep. It supports things like type 2 diabetes, so reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes, but also supports menopause symptoms. It can help with heart health, and helps maintain and build muscle strength. And there's also very much the well-being elements of it as well, which are around reducing loneliness and social isolation, and getting out and about, even if you're walking on your own, feeling more connected to your community, and other people that you might see along the way. However, even though there's loads of benefits, there's also lots of barriers that women face. So the issue isn't often motivation. It can be around time, safety, responsibilities, and also the opportunity to do it. So I think it's really thinking about, it's not just us blaming ourselves, often thinking that we're not active enough, or we're not prioritizing exercise or movement. It's really about workloads, the other priorities that we have in our lives as women, and the different directions that we often get pulled into. So some of the recent evidence that's been brought through the Living Streets National Walking Month research shows that nearly 1 in 3 women, so that's almost 30%, say that they don't have enough time to go for a walk. And women spend on average 54 minutes more per day on unpaid work and caring responsibilities than men do. So that's nearly an hour additional a day, so 7 hours a week, on top of your paid work, and everything else that's going on in life. That is, I suppose, time that could be spent being active. And women are nearly twice as likely as men to feel put off by walking due to a lack of safe places nearby. And that's something that I find really relatable. Summer months are great. You get lighter evenings, there's more opportunity to go out once the kids are in bed at 8 o'clock at night, feel comfortable and safe walking. But we know that's not the case for the majority of the year living in England. A lot of the times it is dark. People don't feel safe in their local areas. And we create spaces like parks and green spaces that are supposed to be there for women to access. However, a lot of us wouldn't feel comfortable being in an environment that feels a bit more less open than it does walking along roads. So that's definitely something that continues to be a barrier for women accessing outdoors and green spaces. And then women are more likely to combine walking with errands, caring and family responsibilities. So rather than actually taking the time for ourselves to switch off and enjoy it and be mindful in the moment. So thinking about connecting with nature and being outside. So walking generally and often does happen in outdoor spaces, and there's massive benefits to show that really does help improve our connection with nature, our headspace, being mindful, taking in what's happening around us. There's nothing better, I find, than walking in my local park. And recently, there's been some baby geese that have been born, and watching them. And each week, I'm seeing them grow. And I think being able to have that connection to nature has knock-on effects around your well-being as well, and can have a real positive impact. It also helps us slow down. So being in an environment that's peaceful and slow, and things like seeing the water, listening to the birds singing, hopefully seeing some sunshine. We're going to get a bit more of that over the next week. So all of those things, the vitamin D you'd get from that, it increases mood and makes us feel better in ourselves. And it also really provides that reflection space, time to switch off from the day to day, at a pace that's comfortable and slow enough that you're able to really think, and you're not worrying about being too out of breath or just thinking about breathing, because you're doing something more intense like a run or a jog. So it's a really good opportunity to have that emotional reset, and like start your day or close your day, or even have be something that you do midday on your lunch break to reset. And it's really thinking about the biggest benefit, really, of the walk is all the things you can enjoy along the way, but how you feel afterwards, and that feeling that then will stay with you for the rest of your day. So just a discussion point now. Again, please post in the chat, but where do you feel best walking? Is there a particular place that you enjoy walking in, somewhere that you like to go? Or it might be somewhere that you go once a year on a holiday, but means something to you. So if you would like to share, also please share if there isn't a place. That's also interesting to see if people have that or not. Yeah, love the beach. That sounds perfect, Chris. It sounds like you live in a good location near the coast. I feel like as I'm reading these, my head's taking me to the place that you're all talking about. Straight away feel a sense of calm. Sherwood Pines, yes, also love Sherwood Pines. And I think hopefully when as you're commenting and you're thinking about that place, you also feeling a sense of positivity about how that place makes you feel and why it is that you enjoy being there and walking, and take us back to thinking about the nature around us. And it's not just about the actual movement and the activity we're doing, it's very much around connecting with the outdoors and what that can bring to our health and well-being. Thank you, everyone. Another thing which is really important with walking, and research shows that walking together works. It's a positive. it's thinking about how you can connect with people. I often find walking and talking a lot better way to get my thoughts together as well. So having things like walking meetings, I find really beneficial, rather than just sat in a meeting room staring at somebody. And sometimes that can be quite intimidating, or it's not the best way to get your thought processes going. So there's lots of ways in a personal aspect, informally catching up with friends or family, but also within a workplace as well, where walking and talking can have real positive benefits. And there's some examples there of how it can improve our health and well-being. But I think one of the things that's really important as well is around how it can have that longer term impact. So increasing motivation because you're going with somebody else. It's not just about the physical activity or the exercise element. It's very much around the social element of it as well. And it helps women stay active for longer. So by having that time to socialise and that connection, it's a way of I suppose killing two birds with one stone, but much more enjoyable, likely to be enjoyable for somebody as well. And I suppose then just a bit of a reflection of how does that make you feel? Would you be more likely to walk if you had somebody to walk with? Or actually, is it something you enjoy doing by yourself and switching off, and being in your own headspace? I think I would say both. It depends when and how I'm walking and where I'm walking. But I definitely see both benefits of being alone, but also having that time to be connected and sociable with somebody else. So another key point that's really worth mentioning, it's never too late to start, and that's walking or any sort of movement or physical activity. So even if a woman becomes active later in life, it can still have significant health benefits. So it's really important that we're not put off by age or thinking it's too late for me or it's too difficult for me as well. I think being very conscious of anything is better than nothing, and what good looks like to you can be completely different to what it looks like to somebody else. So very much doing what works for you, starting small, and do it in a way that's enjoyable as well. I think we often talk about physical activity and exercise, and it can feel like a chore or something that we have to do, and then we get quite resentful towards it. We don't enjoy the experience, or we might feel uncomfortable if it's, for example, going into a leisure centre. Walking is a really good way of being accessible and also enjoyable. So I think doing that in a way that means matters to you and means something to you is key. And so just thinking as well how you don't need to have always been active to benefit from walking. So people can often think, oh, I'm not an active person, or I've not been active in my younger years, but that shouldn't stop somebody from starting to be active. So I'd encourage people, if you're on the call today, or if it's somebody who you're working with, or a family member, or someone you're supporting, to really think about how walking can be part of your life and how it can benefit you later on in life as well. And that leads on really nicely to thinking about how every small amount can matter. So starting small, thinking about how you can fit it into your day, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. There might be an opportunity in your workplace where you can do a quick lap around the block. I work in Sheffield and based at the Olympic Legacy Park. There's a little path that goes round it. If I go around it in maybe 10, 15 minutes, and sometimes that's enough. And I will feel the benefits from doing that. So thinking about how you can make those changes within your everyday routines, and making it part of a routine is really important. So don't think I need to all of a sudden go out and do the Yorkshire Three Peaks. That's by no means what we're saying here. If that's an ambition of yours and something you want to do, amazing. But it really is just about how you can do little bits, little and often, in your everyday life, and that will still benefit you. So thinking about the way in which you're walking as well. So a brisk 10-minute daily walk has lots of health benefits, and still counts towards your recommended minutes of daily exercise. And that brings me on to say is that it really does count as physical activity. So I think I think I said earlier on that it sometimes isn't seen as a formal way of exercising, but it most definitely is. And so it can help you achieve your aerobic activity recommendations. It can help with strength and balance improvements, improve your heart health, and also it's better for your well-being. So it's walking is not just walking, it's one of the simplest ways to meet your daily recommendations. And just think again about the pace in which you're going. Is it helping raise your heart rate? Because that's really where we need to be getting those biggest benefits. It can then help improve breathing and strengthen your muscles, improve your stamina. And so, yeah, just the message takeaway that brisk walk absolutely counts towards your daily exercise. So just a bit of a quiz now, and if you could, again just type into the chat. So thinking more broadly now about how walking supports your health and the physical activity recommendations that we have. So they're part of the CMO guidelines for adults in the UK and women in the UK. So first question, what are the UK current physical activity recommendations per week for adults? Is it A, 3 times for 30 minutes, B, 2 times for 60 minutes, or C, every day for 45 minutes? If you could just post into the chat either A, B, or C. I think everyone's had a chance to post. Oh, there was a D. Sorry, I missed off the. That's not helpful, is it? Another There's also D, sorry, that was missed off. I had to click the screen another time for that one to come up, which will completely throw all of what we've just done. So if anybody would like to change to D, please do. Because when technology, yeah, it's not in your favour, is it? So I think everybody's just changed to D, which is that was really unhelpful. Sorry about that. But yeah, you sounds like everybody is very much clued up with what the guidance and recommendations are. So it's 5 times a week for 30 minutes, which can either for some people feel really achievable or really overwhelming. And depending on how your activity levels are already in your life, that will massively differ. For some people, being active 5 times a week for 30 minutes, that feels like a mountain to climb. That is not by any means achievable for some people. It depends on where you're starting. So I think with all of the recommendations, it's just about doing more. So if you're currently inactive or you've got really low levels of activity, even if you start by doing 10 minutes 5 days a week, and so just making it achievable. And we don't, these are recommendations of, I suppose, the gold standard of where we want to be. It's not about pushing people before they're ready to get there. See if the next one works a bit better. And so the next question is, what frequency are the UK recommendations on strength training per week? So this is just focused around strength training. Is it A, 5 times 60 minutes, 2 times for 30 minutes, or 3 times 25 minutes? Is there a D? Yeah. And 5 times for 30 minutes. So how many times do you think we should be doing strength training per week? A lot of C's, a couple of B's, a few more B's, a D. Another C. So the right answer is B. So I think we've got a few people who said B. So it's actually 2 times a week for 30 minutes. So that is just focused on strength training, and strength training is more and more important particularly for women as we're getting older. So it's really important to start that, not waiting until we're elderly and then we're struggling with things like falls and balance. It's really important to start that at a younger age to make sure our body's ready for the aging process and to make us as strong as possible to be able to manage with that. So 2 times a week for 30 minutes, which hopefully does feel quite achievable, but I think it's really important for people to understand ways in which they can do that, and ways they can fit it into their lives as well. And again, I think, like I've mentioned previously, a lot of the opportunities for strength training in day-to-day lives we don't necessarily do anymore. So I always think of examples of when my nan will have been growing up and doing things like the shopping. She would have walked to the shops, she would have carried home heavy shopping bags. She will have naturally there been getting her aerobic activity, but also her strength training. A lot of the time we don't do that anymore. We have shopping delivered to our front door, or we go to the supermarket, probably park quite close to the door, wheel the shopping back in a trolley and put it into the boot. And we're limiting those natural opportunities to build up things like strength training or any sort of movement and activity. And so it is more now about us making a conscious effort about how we can embed that into our routines and our daily lives. Just another question around what is the average time the UK population per day sit down? Again, we're probably all sat down now, aren't we? We can think about ourselves and how long we've been sat already today. So A, 5 hours, B, 9.5 hours, C, 11.5 hours, or D, 7 hours. B's and C's. So the majority of people have said either B, 9.5 hours, or C, 11.5 hours. And feel those times alone, that just feels crazy, doesn't it, when we think how long we're actually awake for in a day. So the answer is B. So it's 9.5 hours, and that's the same as a long haul flight. If you actually imagine being sat on a long haul flight and the thought of that and thinking, oh, I've got to be sat still for 9.5 hours, but actually, for the average person in the UK, that's what we do every day anyway. It's a long time. So I think just putting that into the context of this session and walking, and how can we break that up a little bit more? And sometimes it's not that easy, is that we have to be sat down for work or for other reasons. But I think it's where we do have the opportunity to make more active breaks or active meetings or walking to and from work and parking a bit further away. We really need to make sure that we take those opportunities and make that sedentary behaviour far less. I've got one more question. So people who don't regularly exercise lose what % of muscle strength by age 65? A, 40%, B, 25, or C, 8%? I don't think there's a D on this one, so I could stop there. So a lot of A's and B's there, which is either 40% or 25%. Well, there was a D. Didn't think there's a D on that one. It's not the answer, so there was actually C. So with all of, yeah, it's 8%, which is, I think that often can surprise a lot of people. Imagine it is a surprise to people on the call because nobody had gave that as an option, I don't think. 80%, which is, kind of blows your mind a little bit that we, by the age of 65, which in this day and age isn't that old, people live a lot longer. That is quite scary to think if we haven't been active previously to that, we're already starting a far worse advantage for those later years of our life. So, it's really important that we continue to be active, continue doing simple things like walking in our everyday lives to make sure we benefit the most as we can in our later life. And I think it's really about not just living longer, it's living longer in a healthier condition. So the quality of life that we can have is so important, and why physical activity, any sort of movement is really important. Hayley, wow, I'd better get a move on. I'm 57. Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? It's a bit of a wake-up call, I think, to us all, about how kind of stark those figures can be. So making physical activity part of your life, if we think about it and try and break it down in this way, in every day, there's 1,440 minutes. The recommendations are 30 minutes, 5 times a week. So finding small moments to move can make a big difference. And within 1,440 minutes, 30 minutes doesn't feel like that much. So I think if we can think of the opportunity we've got within every day, for those to be on our feet, to move into doing something, that to me makes it feel a lot more manageable. So it's just really about prioritizing our time well, and creating those habits that it just becomes normal. And things like even standing up in a meeting is more beneficial than being sat down in a meeting. So strength-based exercise, on here you can see, it's actually really small on my screen, let's see if I can see. It just shows you the as we get older, how our strength can decline. And actually, what's really important here is, yes, the blue line at the top, that's somebody who's had like lifelong exercise. So somebody who's been active throughout their lives. Obviously, they're going to have stronger muscles, and they're going to retain them as they go into older age. But it does, of course, drop down. The two green lines in the middle, where it's important, because this is where exercise has been initiated in middle age, and also where it's been initiated in middle age and older age. So the dotted line is middle age, and then the older age one is below. And I think that's really important to see that actually, if you start later in life, that's okay. And actually, the gap between the green and the blue line starts to bridge, and they can still have huge impacts on your strength as you get older. And as you can see, the red line that's very much where somebody is inactive, sedentary, isn't doing anything in terms of physical activity or strength-based training. And that will be where you will very quickly start to deteriorate in your older age, and have that loss of independence, be very much not being able to be as mobile as somebody who would have been active. But hopefully it's these graphs are supposed to help us see the impact that can really have, but also give us that optimism that it's not too late to start, and actually there's something we can all be doing to benefit ourselves and thank ourselves in years to come. So it just gives us there as well some examples, again, things that are quite simple. It doesn't have to be, we need to all go into a gym and start squat on a squat rack with loads of heavy weights, or doing deadlifts. We don't have to be bodybuilders. If that's something you're interested in, fantastic. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. There's loads of things we can do day to day that will benefit strength training. And things like I was saying before about like carrying shopping bags. It can be that simple. Just thinking about where can I do more that's going to help build that strength. And there's loads of things you can do. You can buy different equipment. I know my dad uses them sometimes, where you can squeeze, like hand squeezers, and you grip. And those things, just even doing something like that while you're watching TV at night, that's a moment to think, I'm sat here, I'm doing nothing else, I can do a bit of activity, and that can be massively beneficial for your strength as well. So there's some really simple guidance around ways in which we can do this and support people, particularly as we're getting older, to embed more strength-based training into our daily lives. And I think just to highlight there that walking is one of those. So yeah, really important for lots of reasons why we move more through walking. I won't go into detail about too many of these because we've mentioned them already, but physical activity as a whole, walking is part of that, but it's just really about the different ways and the amount of ways it can improve the quality of our lives. I think when we talk about strength training and getting older, the thing around falls prevention, sorry, is really important, and also gaining independence. So, in mobility independence, fall prevention, will really help us, along with things like cognitive function and pain management. So we're just going to talk now about the levels of activity. So the government guidance, um, sorry, I was just looking at the chat popped up, is around 1 in 3 men and nearly 1 in 2 women are not active enough for good health. And what we really want to do is focus on the moderate intensity. So the focus here for us is getting people from sedentary to moderate, and that's where we're going to see the biggest gains. So being inactive is responsible for around 1 in 6 deaths in the UK, which I think again is much higher than what people appreciate. It doesn't get this right the same sort of noise as things like smoking may do, but it is something that is a preventable way of living that we can all change and do something about, and actually will benefit in our health in so many ways. And it doesn't have to be the vigorous or very vigorous. It can be moderate. So doing things like a gentle stroll, what's something that can start increasing your heart rate. And again, that looks really different to everybody. Walking around the shops, walking up and down the stairs while there's an advert on, while you're watching TV at night, or instead of going to, if you've got a downstairs toilet and an upstairs toilet, go into the upstairs one, don't just go to the downstairs one because it's easy. Taking the stairs instead of a lift. There's loads of quick ways that this can be embedded into our lives. And I think if people are able to and interested in, you can then do more of the vigorous activities, which would be things like power walking up a hill or going on a long hike. But really thinking about how throughout all of these intensities, walking has a role to play and is something that we can all be doing more of. So there's three main types of physical activity: aerobic, and that's very much around increasing our heart rate; muscle strengthening and bone strengthening; and balance and flexibility activities are also really beneficial. And aerobic activity is the type that benefits your heart and your lungs the most. So hopefully you can see this graph. It's really to show and give an example of who gains the most. So thinking about how active we're wanting to get people, but also where people are starting from. So I've mentioned that before, 150 minutes a week or 30 minutes over 5 days is just too much for some people. If you're sedentary at the moment, that doesn't feel achievable. But the greatest gain and the greatest impact is very much taking somebody who's got really low levels of activity to some activity. So it could be an additional 10 minutes a day to start off with. It doesn't have to be something it's taken quite that leap. And the key message to remember is something's better than nothing. Some is good, more is better. So I think really supporting people or yourselves and motivating yourselves to start small, but then try and increase that and build on that as time goes along. Let's click through these as well. So health benefits are achieved at levels both below and above the national guidelines. However, targeting the people who are currently doing the lowest levels have got the greatest health benefits to gain. It doesn't mean to say if you're already active, doing more won't benefit you. It definitely will. But it's just where the biggest health gains are from inactivity to active. And just really understanding that even if you've got a long-term health condition or other things going on in your life, physical activity and movement still has a role to play. It might need to be that people are on a tailored exercise program because of the condition, but it will definitely still be beneficial. It's always going to be more beneficial than do more benefit than harm. So physical activity can always add value to somebody's health and well-being. And then just to show you some of the levels of activity across South Yorkshire, and it just gives you a breakdown there, the colour code at the bottom for the four areas. So inactive is less than 30 minutes a week. So around 30% of people in South Yorkshire are inactive, so are doing less than 30 minutes a week, which again can feel quite surprising or quite shocking, quite stark data. The fairly active is around 10%, and that's between 30 and 149 minutes per week. And then the people that have reported to be active, that's getting those recommendations, the guidelines of 150 minutes a week, is around 60%. Which is really positive. I think the bit that's more concerning is the inactive, around 30% of people that are reporting as being inactive. And then it just breaks that data down a little bit more. So people who are reported as being inactive, saying that they do nothing, again, around 20%. People are saying that they're inactive and they only do a light bit of exercise is around 10%. And then the fairly active, again, is around 10, 11%. So just to give you a bit of understanding of where activity levels are across our places. Now we just want to think about how this can be embedded into your lives, your family's lives, your friends' lives, people who you're working with's lives, and think about those opportunities to walk more. So at home, we spoke about some of these things already, but just some tips there, I suppose, if it's things that you already do or could think about doing. So having phone calls and walking. It doesn't mean you have to be sedentary to take a phone call, so walk while you're doing it, and spend time with family and friends on a walk. Short evening walk for stress relief. I definitely do that. I find it really helpful to do it while I'm listening to music or a podcast, just a way to break myself away from a day of work, getting the kids to bed, and then just a moment for myself before I go home to all the house chores and the pile of washing that's waiting for me. So I think thinking about ways that it works for you, walking instead of scrolling on your phone. If you notice yourself sat there just scrolling, thinking, actually, how can I break away from this? Is this an opportunity to go for a quick 10-minute walk? And thinking about after meals as well is huge benefits linked to helping your body digest food if you walk after meals. And then there's other things like washing the car, more around movement, cleaning and hoovering. Surprising how many steps you can get in when you clean the house. So again, thinking about how you can incorporate that into daily chores. And yeah, I've already said around getting up during adverts and using an upstairs toilet. And then thinking about how we can embed this more into our working day. We spend a lot of time within a working environment, and yeah, there's definite opportunities to be more active within them. So things like parking further away, how do you commute to work? Is there any changes you could make there? Walk to the water fountain, or walk to go and make cups of tea for everyone. Again, walking whilst you're making calls, walking meetings. I've got a walking meeting later on this afternoon. Just if there's only a couple of you, it's a lot easier to do that. And I appreciate if you're in bigger groups, it doesn't always work. I think where you can think about, could this be an active meeting? Does it have to be sedentary? And things like coordinating lunchtime walks and thinking about how you can do that, how you could be that person at work that brings more activity into the workplace. I just wanted to bring this back to linking into the National Walking Month that's taking place at the moment. So there's some sort of quotes on there that talks about specifically the focus of it this year is around women. So just gives you some examples of changes that are being made or why the campaign is happening. So things in there around the people's well-being and why it's important that women take that time for themselves and to have that headspace, being away from the day-to-day caring responsibilities and the mental load that a lot of women hold. But then also thinking about how important it is to have the spaces that are safe and accessible and inclusive for women as well, so that women are able to walk more often within their local communities. So it just again, just a bit of a reflection for yourselves of just what does walking look like to you? What could it look like? Is there more that you think you could be doing? And have you been doing more as part of National Walking Month this month? Has it supported you in any way? And hopefully at the end we might have a bit of time to reflect on some of that if anyone's got any examples they'd like to share. But thinking about where you're at the moment and from today and everything you've heard, is there anything you can do in terms of goal setting, a bit of an action plan for yourself? So where are you now? What does your present situation look like? How much are you walking, or how much are you being active? And then can you create some small short-term goals which would help you to increase that and start embedding it into hopefully what could be a long-term goal and making it a habit? And then I've just got some, we can share the slides after, but there's some useful links on there, and also my contact information as well. But I'd love to hear if anybody wants to share any experiences you've got, either things you've started to do as part of Walking Month, or things after what you've heard today, or things you've been thinking about, any small steps or changes that you might like to make in terms of getting out more and walking or being more active. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Does anyone want to come in with any feedback on Rachel's question or any comments? I've got some things to share, but if anyone's not, let's have a look at the chat. I think things have gone in there. Just thank you. Someone said, I think now the weather's getting warmer, I'll definitely make an effort to walk more.
It's not easy to. I found that when I was on maternity leave, some days I was doing over 20,000 steps walking for naps. And I found that that was my way to part of my routine, again, the habit of getting out and going for a walk. And I can remember coming back to work and in my first week, my daily average was about 3,000 steps. I was like, wow, that is, yeah, it's not good, is it? Especially because I work in physical activity, and that's like I think just a real eye opener, an example of how life circumstances can change, and then it isn't as easy to just have that as a natural part of your everyday. But yeah, thinking how you can build that back in.
There's a similar example to that, Rich, actually, when I think on a previous webinar I've run where me and others I think were saying things like the school run. Obviously, like that's how walking gets tagged onto an errand thing, but that can help with steps. And some people were saying that once the school runs stop, that's when the step count maybe goes down. So it, like I say, it's a change in circumstances or your situation in your life that does impact a lot. And there's a few more comments coming through now. Somebody said feeling inspired will be increasing their walking. That's really positive. Someone else saying need to do more thought-provoking with the lighter nights. You don't have an excuse not to get out at this time of year. Definitely being tied to a laptop makes it difficult, working full time. And then someone else just saying, some days I'm lucky to hit 1,000 steps just standing up from the desk to waiting room and back. Lots of challenges in there.
Yeah, and I think it's how I'd like to think of walking is hopefully it should be the simplest way to increase activity levels. And I think sometimes it feels that in itself is challenging, as we're hearing people saying. And if we think about doing more formal exercise, that's like another level of challenging, isn't it? Having to be an exercise class or a gym or something at a certain time of day, be dressed appropriately, all the rest that comes with that. And that just sometimes just doesn't work. And then what ends up happening is we're not able to achieve that. So then we just stop doing it. Whereas I think hopefully walking is something that is the most accessible way of moving that can be brought into everyday lives. And what I'd say to some of the people who are facing those challenges, well, we all face those challenges, is just try and do a little bit more than you're doing now. So is there an opportunity in the evenings to get, even if it is 10 minutes, a short walk around the local estate that you live on? Is there that opportunity within lunchtime breaks? Just thinking anything more than what you're doing now will benefit you. So please don't feel like it has to be a massive change to your routine. You should start small and think about how you can start embedding that a little bit more.
Thanks, Rachel. That's some good tips. Someone else just popping in the chat that the parents live around a 20-minute walk away and they're going to walk around there later.
That's amazing.
Oh, another one. There's some alarming. Sorry. There's another one coming saying there were some alarming but interesting stats in the presentation that provide extra context for encouraging people to get out for a walk more often.
Yeah. I think they're really helpful to see. I think sometimes we just see here and now, don't we? And I think actually thinking about the impacts that can have on us in our future is so helpful, because that's the motivation we need to make that change now. It's not just about worrying ourselves at this present moment, it's thinking about what that means for us later on. Thank you all for the comments and being so honest and open. It's it's what makes these sessions meaningful, and hopefully inspired you all to think about, even if you can't do it straight away, just think about how that could be achievable.